All right. Chapter 12, payroll exercises. Okay, so first off, we're going to focus on one section at a time. So here, we're going to focus on just our employee expenses. So let's take a look. So Bob, okay, he's a married man with 3 dependents, okay? And he files as head of household, okay? And of course, only has one primary job, right? And he earns $19.50 per hour, and he works a total of 72 hours this pay period, okay? And then this pay period is a bi-weekly. So 72 hours is normal, right? Usually the max you could do for a bi-weekly with a regular wage is going to be about up to 80 hours. Okay, so there you go. He works a total of 72 on a bi-weekly pay period. So now we're going to go ahead and use the following table to calculate what Bob's federal income tax withholdings are. Okay, so here I provided you the table number 5. Well, it's supposed to say 6 right there, which allows you to tell you what kind of pay period he's on. He's on a bi-weekly pay period, so therefore he gets 26 paychecks. Okay. Once again, the bi-weekly table, and this is the head of household. So this is the table for you. And then once again, these are the percentages that he may be subject to be taxed at. So let's go ahead and figure out one thing first, okay? Let's go ahead and solve for Bob's federal income tax withholdings. So let's go over step 1. Step 1, which is to solve for his total earned income. Okay, what is his total wages, gross wages? So we know that he worked 72 hours, but how much was he getting paid for?
$19.50 an hour.
$19.50 an hour for 72 hours. So what is his total gross earnings?
$14.04.
$14.04?
Yes.
$14.04. Okay. So once again, if you've done this on your calculator, right, you're going to take your $19.50 and you're going to multiply it by the 72 hours to get the $14.04. Okay. So that's his gross earnings. Now, part 2A asks to add any additional income from jobs that are not from his primary job. Does he have a secondary job?
No.
No. So that's automatic 0. Okay. And on top of that, I didn't talk about any deductions. So in this case, those are just 0. So that means the adjusted gross earnings is going to be for the $14.04. Okay. So now step 2 is ready. Okay. Let's go ahead and see on the circular E table, right? I've provided the exact table, the biweekly head of household. Let's see which section does he fall under. Okay, so the first section is, does he make at least, okay? Does he at least make $12.69?
Yes.
Does he make at least $2,808? No. So hop back up here. So he at least made $12.69, and he's made less than $28.08. Okay? So therefore, we're going to take this and we're going to highlight this, whatever you'd like. I'm going to highlight it so I can keep track of it. So here, section C is what the government's going to take away from his paycheck regardless of what he earns. So the government's going to take automatically $54.60 from his paycheck. Okay? Anything over what the government gives you, so the government lets you keep $12.69. They let you pocket that as non-taxable. And any dollar over that is going to be subject to a 12%. So let's go ahead and figure this out. Okay? So let's go ahead and figure out how much money in excess did he earn? So we're going to take the 1404 and we're going to subtract out the 1269 because that's what the government lets us keep. So how much in excess does he have?
100.
What was that?
135.
135 extra. Okay? So because this is the money that he's earned in excess, this is subject to the 12% extra tax that he has to pay for. So in this case, we're going to take the 135 and we're going to multiply it by the 12% bracket that we landed on. So in this case, what is 12% of $135? $16.20. Okay? All right? And then, of course, we have to also add in what the government's going to take away from our paycheck anyway. So $16.20 plus the $54.60, right? To give us a grand total of how much?
780.
70.80.
Yes.
Okay, 70.80. All right? So now, this is where it's the difference between the 2019 and the 2020 version, okay? 2019, you already took your dependents before you got taxed. In this case, it's after you get taxed. So we already mentioned that Bob has 3 dependents. So if Bob has 3 dependents, right? We know from the chart above, okay? Each dependent is $2,000. Okay? So if each dependent, so how many does he have and he's claiming?
3.
He's claiming 3 dependents. Okay? So again, 3 dependents. Okay? Okay? And they cost $2,000 per year. So therefore, he's racking up a total of $6,000 in dependents. Okay? And we need to divide this whole entire amount by the number of paychecks he receives. So then you get a monthly or you get a per paycheck of how much he has to dedicate to each child. So in this case, right, how many paychecks does he get if he's on a bi-weekly payroll?
26.
He gets 26. So that means we're going to take the $6,000 and divide it by the 26 paychecks. So therefore, how much per paycheck is for claiming the children?
230.
230.
70 cents.
So you get 230 and 77 cents. Okay? So therefore, what you're going to do is you're going to take this amount and hold it against his total income tax. So in this case, 70 minus the 230.77. How much tax is he going to be withheld for?
0.
0. So in this case, because if you get a negative number, your automatic assumption is going to be 0. So in this case, what was my negative number here?
160.77.
160.77. So therefore, he's going to claim 0 for his with income tax withholdings. Okay. All right. So there are a few rules and guidelines. Again, if you're a single person, you don't get any extra money. But if you claim you're head of household, the government lets you keep a big portion of your money because you're the head of household. You're the one that's providing for your family, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? Of course, you can also claim your dependents on top of that as well. So in this case, because he's claiming all 3 dependents, therefore he's not subject to pay any income tax withholdings. Go ahead, Nicole.
Where did you get the $70 from?
$70. We calculated the total percent that,
70, 80, right?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, yes, sorry, 70, 80. No worries. Okay. So therefore, he doesn't. The company does not need to withhold any income tax from him because he's claiming himself as head of household, and that he is also claiming 3 dependent children. Okay. Now, of course, if you do it this way, of course, you're more likely to have to pay a big, huge tax at the very end of the year. There are rules and regulations where you can claim your children at the end of the year. Most people usually do, so they don't claim it during each paycheck. They claim it towards the end when they file their taxes, which is also a beneficial way as well, right? Instead of having them take your paycheck, right? Instead of you claiming your paycheck 100%, and then having to pay your tax at the end of the year, you can do your taxes at the very end and then take away the $6,000 per dependent for that year, and then then you could determine how much money you actually have to pay then. All right, because most cases, if you do end up claiming anything or anyone, whether it's yourself or whether it's dependent or child or whatever, most likely the more that withholdings that you take, the more taxes you are subject to pay at the end of the year. Okay, if you claim nothing, you'll get more money as a refund, more likely. Okay, so that's the way this works. Okay, you're not obligated to take any withholdings, but of course, depending on your view of the government, of course, you earn this money, so you should claim all of it, right? But then you just want to be very careful because you may have to pay at the end of the year if you claim them now. Okay. So that is just understanding the very first section, which is calculating the total withholdings. Okay. So then step 2 says, let's solve for Bob's FICA tax. Okay. So in this case, what percentage is my Social Security going to be?
Is that when we times it to like the .06?
It's gonna be the 1404.
Okay, hold on. Before you throw numbers out, what the percentage? What is the percentage that you're supposed to calculate for Social Security? So 0.6. Okay, 6 is
You probably, yeah.
6%.
it's what was it?
6%.
6. 6.2%.
Oh,
Okay, so remember that's Social Security. This is mandated because it's a federal tax. So everybody, right, that works must pay into their Social Security. And once again, the Social Security is going to be based on the total gross earned income, not adjusted. It's gross. So in this case, how much did Mr. Bob actually make?
1404.
1404. So then again, we're going to multiply that by the 6.2%. Okay? So therefore, how much Social Security is Bob subject to have to pay?
$87.05.
Okay?
I rounded up.
What was that? 87.
5.05.
Good. 87.05. Good. You always round up for the government. Okay. How much is Medicare What percentage is Medicare?
1.45.
1.45%. So in this case, right, it's also based on total gross earnings. So 1404 times the 0.0145. So how much is Mr. Bob going to be subject to pay for his Medicare?
$20.36.
$20.36. Okay. Now, you don't need to add these two numbers up because when you journalize it, you can journalize them as two separate entities, right? OSDI or Social Security or Medicare, whatever type of account you want to use it as, right? Just it's also, the other name for Social Security is OASDI, which stands for Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance, while HI stands for Hospital Insurance. So whatever your company account uses is whatever you're subject to use. So in this case, how do I journalize this transaction because I also have to cut Mr. Bob a paycheck? So how do I
He'd start with salaries and wages expense.
correct, right? We're going to start by recognizing how much money Bob has earned, okay? By salaries, wages, expense, right?
And then federal income tax payable.
Federal income tax withholding. What else?
SSI.
So Social Security, and what else?
Medicare.
Medicare. And of course, last but not least,
Checking.
yes, you have to pay Mr. Bob. Okay? So let's go ahead and calculate this. What was his total earnings?
1404.
1404. Okay? How much federal income tax is he subject to pay?
0.
0. Okay? What was his Social Security?
8705.
8705. What was his Medicare?
2036.
So therefore, how much should his check be written out for?
$1,296.09.
Right? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your total amount of 1404. You're going to subtract out your expenses, or in this case, your liabilities. So we're going to subtract out 0. We're going to subtract out 8705, and we're going to subtract out $20.36 to get the overall ending balance of $1296.09. Okay? All right. Great job. So that was just dealing with the employee. Now we are subject to have to calculate the tax that the employer has to pay for having Bob. So once again, we know that Bob, right? We have to calculate his Social Security and his Medicare, also known as company FICA. So in this case, you do have to combine them. So what is his total? What is the total FICA that the company is subject to pay?
The Social Security and the Medicare combined.
So 6.2 plus the 1.45, which equals 7.65%. Okay, so in this case, right, what do we know about solving from above?
We already solved for the Social Security and the Medicare.
Correct. So in this
Original
case,
741.
so 8705 plus your 2036, and we get a total of 10741. Okay, so that's how much FICA that we have to pay because we have to match them 100%. Okay. Other additional taxes that we are obligated to pay is going to be FUTA, okay, what number did I say where we're going? What percentage am I going to tax Bob at?
0.6 or 6%.
Yep, 6%. So therefore, how much FUTA am I going to pay for Bob?
So it'd be the 1404 times 0.06,
Mm-hmm.
84.24.
$84.24 is what we have to pay for the federal unemployment. Okay. What about the state? Okay, okay, not state federal, state unemployment tax. What percentage did I say we're going to use for the state unemployment tax?
Gross wages times 3%.
Times 3%. Good. Gross wages, so 1404 times the 3%, right? Which is going to give me a total of 4212. Okay. So you can do it this way too. If you know that the first one, the federal unemployment, if you know this is 6%, and you know that the state is half of it, right? Because it's 3%, you could just take the 84.24 divided by 2, or just take half of it, and it's going to be 4212. Okay. But that's of course if for this class, those are the numbers we're using. But again, if you're working at a company, those numbers could be subjective. Okay, meaning they could be any number, any percentage. All right, so there you go, 4212. And then last but not least, how much percentage is going to be workers' compensation?
1.36.
Yes, 1.36. Okay. So if it's 1.36, how much are we going to pay into the workers' compensation for Bob?
1910.
1910.
What is that 1.36 something?
That's the number that we just are using. That's what we said workers' compensation is going to be. It's just going to be 1.36%. So if you look at the review sheet, I laid it out on which percentages and what numbers to use when calculating. So this one it's just a number that you're supposed to recognize. Okay. So 19.
On employer payroll.
Yep. So then now we are done with calculating all the taxes. So therefore, how are we going to journalize this? Payroll tax expense, right? Because it's an expense to our company that we have to pay our employees. Payroll tax expense, right? And this is for whatever pay period they're on. Okay?
Would be the company FICA.
Yes, so company FICA is going to be a liability because this is what we owe to pay into their Social Security and Medicare.
FUTA.
And then we're going to recognize FUTA, SUTA, Okay, so let me pull up this just a bit. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and fill in our numbers. So what was the amount of company FICA we calculated?
107.41.
107.41. How much was the FUTA?
84.24.
How much was SUTA?
42.12.
42.12. Okay. And then how much was workers' compensation?
19.10.
19.10. So therefore, how much does the company have to pay for Bob being an employee?
$252.86.
What was that? 252.86?
Yeah.
Perfect. Right? So not only does, the company have to pay 1404 for just all of Bob, he has to pay an additional $252 just to pay for Bob's, taxes. So therefore, the total amount that he pays per person is $1,600 or even $1,700.
You're off by a
Two
penny.
fifty-two, 87.
87. 2, 4. Okay, good. Yeah, 7. Good. All right. Good job. Now, if you guys can spare me 10 more minutes, let's go ahead and do example number 2, and then we'll take a 20-minute break. All right, so here we are. Example number 2. Susan is a single woman with 0 withholdings, okay, and has only one primary job, okay, and she earns $25 an hour, and she worked a total of 38 hours this week, okay, and of course the payroll period is going to be weekly. So once again, it's a nice, sweet, short, simple one. We have this table here, weekly table, single, okay? So let's go ahead and solve for the very first one. What is the federal income tax that Susan is subject to pay? So first, we got to figure out how much she earns, right? She works $25 an hour, and how many hours did she work? 38.
50.
You said it was, what was it?
950.
950 even?
What I got.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I didn't think that okay. So she earned a total of 950, right? She has a primary job, only one primary job, so no extra income and no extra deductions. So therefore, this is the adjusted amount of gross earnings. Okay? So now we're going to go to our circular E table to find which row she belongs to. So in this case, first row indicates how much she's earned. So let's go ahead and see, right? She has to at least earn this much.
Would be between the 433 and the 1021.
Good, excellent. So here, 433 and 1021. She's definitely did not make more than 1031, but she's definitely made more than 433. So I'm going to highlight this so we can keep an eye on it. All right? So then, how do I solve by using this information here? What do I need to do?
The 950
Okay,
minus the 433.
okay.
It's 517.
You said it was 517?
Yes.
Okay, 517.
517 times the 12%.
Okay, so 517 times the 12%.
6204.
6204.
Then the 6204 plus the $19 $19.20, and you get 81.24.
Hold on, hold on. Sorry. 62.04 plus the 19.20
Yes.
equals
81.24.
81.24. She's also claimed no dependents and no extra withholding. So therefore, that is it. She is going to pay a total of $81.24 into her income tax. Okay? So like I said, if you're single, you're going to pay the most heftiest taxes, okay? But that means you're going to get a bigger tax return at the end of the year. Okay? All right, so now that we solved for federal income tax withholdings, next is to solve for Social Security. So, her gross earnings. How do you solve for Social Security?
950 times the 6.2%.
Mm-hmm.
58.90.
Okay. How much is the Medicare?
1.45%.
Mm-hmm.
$13.78.
Oh, sorry. 1378. Got it. Okay. And I believe that's it. So now, let's journalize. Okay. So how should my journal look like?
Salary and wages. Expense.
Mm-hmm.
Tax withholding. Social Security, Medicare, and checking.
Okay. So what was the total wages that she's earned?
950.
Okay. What was the total federal income tax withholding that we calculated?
81.24.
81.24. How much Social Security?
58.90.
58.90. And lastly, how much Medicare?
1378.
All right. So therefore, what is her total check that she's going to be receiving?
150.
796.08.
Okay. Everyone else agree?
Yes.
796.08. Okay. So therefore, she had to pay almost $200, $150 worth of tax. Okay, and that's very expected, especially for a single woman paying tax with claiming nothing. Okay, so it's a lot of taxes, but once again, that means she's going to get a good tax refund. Okay. So, of course, we have to deal with our employer side. So, we have to solve for the company FICA, which we know is going to be Social Security of, what is it? Social Security of 5890 plus the 1378. So, how much FICA is the company responsible to pay? 7268. Okay. How much federal, how much FUTA?
Gross wages times 6%. 57.
57.
Okay. And then how much SUTA?
Gross wages times 3%. 2850.
Okay. And then last but not least, how much workers' compensation? Or workman's compensation?
Gross wages times 1.36%.
$12.92.
$12.92. 92? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Then, last but not least, let's journalize these payroll tax expenses.
Company FICA, FUTA, SUTA, and workman's comp.
Okay, FUTA, SUTA. Okay, and okay, so therefore, how much company FICA did we solve for?
7268.
7268. How much was FUTA?
57.
57. How much was SUTA?
2850.
2850. And last but not least, what was the workman's comp?
1292.
1292. So therefore, what is the total amount of taxes that the company must pay for Susan?
171.10.
$171.10. Okay. See, as we go through the first example, the second example is pretty much straightforward. And this second example that we see here is going to be what I'm going to test you for. I'm not going to do any complications. It's going to be a straight, easy one. A person, right, whether male or female, they're single with no withholdings and one primary job. So your responsibility is just to make sure that you recognize what taxes come to this person. And also the question I could ask is, what federal income tax withholdings are they subject to pay? What is their total amount of check they're going to receive? Okay. Or I can even ask you the total amount of employers' taxes that the company is subject to pay. Okay. I can ask any of those questions, but for this exam, I'm only going to ask you the question for the scenario of a single woman, no withholding. So you're only, and I'm going to provide the table for you. So you're going to be receiving whatever table, right? I'm going to pick any type of pay period, and you're responsible to calculate everything. Okay? All right. Good one, easy.